is a condition like ADHD in the genes? It could be a short answer and it can be a long answer. So I suppose the short answer is yes, it is a genetic condition, but it's not only a genetic condition. You know, genetics is a very interesting thing, and I can give you a very short little lesson on genetics. If a father's tall, he's generally going to have a tall son. If his mother's tall, he definitely is going to be tall. And if you have a tall father and a very short son, you've got to question whether in fact he is the father. Height has a genetic inheritance of over 90%. In fact, it's 91%. And the next most common condition is in fact ADHD, surprisingly. Over 80% of those with ADHD inherit it from one or both the parents. So as they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And if you have a suspicion of the problem, you might want to look at yourselves and be honest. I have the most amazing experiences dealing with parents, because as I'm doing an assessment and talking about the problem, often one of those parents will say, you know, you're actually talking about me. These things were not picked up when I was at school. And it's sad to think that if these problems were addressed early, there could have been a different outcome from a lot of parents. And one of the parents I was talking about today, fortunately, the father was very honest and had the ability to recognize and said, look, you know, that was me. My son is an action replay of who I was. And that's why I want to address these problems. Genetics, the force is very, very strong. And if one child has ADHD, there's a 25% chance that another child will have ADHD. And if a parent with ADHD, there's a 33% chance that all those siblings and all those children will have ADHD. There are actually, there's actually quite a bit of research that's been done on this, and it's very interesting. They do twin studies, and you can imagine identical twins, and there's almost a 95% correlation between twins. So when there are genetic links, there's often a biological cause. There is a particular medical underlying biological cause. And this gives further credence and support for the fact that ADHD is a genetic, it is a biochemical, it is a biological condition. There actually are 7 genes that have been identified. And there are 2 major genes. One is called the DRD4 and the other is called a DAT1. Those names don't mean much, but they are genes that actually are the little computer instructions in your chromosomes for producing a chemical called dopamine. It's that really good feel hormone, that neurotransmitter. And it is that little chemical that acts in the switches in the front of the brain where the problems are with ADHD. And ADHD is an immaturity of the brain. What we actually think is those genetics actually code, and there's a little glitch, and it causes a delay in the development of the front of the brain, in immaturity. Kids with ADHD seem to be a bit more immature. They're happy-go-lucky. They're the sort of Tom Sawyers and Huckleberry Finns of life. Just life happens. They seem to not have any care in the world. They don't care what's going to happen tomorrow. They're acting like somebody who's younger. And it all starts off with that genetic instruction. You know, what is also very interesting about genetics is there's something called epigenetics. And I know a lot of you probably never heard of epigenetics. But anyway, it's something relatively new that we understand. And for most people, we kind of think at birth the die is cast. That's your lot, that's who you are. Genetically, that's the beginning and end. That's your potential and that's the end of it. Well, that's not strictly true. Epigenetics is an important little thing to understand. It's actually quite exciting because it means that if you provide a loving, good environmental, supportive family with lots of support for a child, it actually releases hormones that act as little switches in your chromosomes. It can literally switch chromosomes on and off. So the environment does play a role. Although those genetics are there, you can influence things as parents. And it's not just medication. It can be influenced by what you do and how you do it. And the earlier you do it, the more switches we can switch on and off.